All right, so today we are going to dive deep into a really fascinating story. Voletta Wallace. You probably know her best as Biggie Small's mom, but there is so much more to her story.
Yeah, she's a really incredible woman. I think it's really easy to kind of pigeonhole her, just as Biggie's mom.
Right.
But she had a whole life and experience before Biggie's fame and a really, really incredible life afterward, too.
So when we talk about Voletta Wallace, we're talking about a Jamaican immigrant. She came over to the States,
Yes.
and she had Biggie, Christopher Wallace,
Mhm.
as a single mother, and was a preschool teacher in Brooklyn.
Yeah, in Brooklyn.
So, I mean, wow, what a powerful woman already.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you think about the challenges that she had to face as a single mom, an immigrant, and then in 1980s Brooklyn, which we all know wasn't exactly the easiest place to be,
Right.
and yet she was still so determined to instill these values of education and hard work in her son. Despite all of that, she wanted him to succeed.
Yeah. I mean, you imagine her like working as a preschool teacher and then coming home and raising this young man, and she wanted him to be a lawyer,
Right, a lawyer,
you know?
a respectable, stable profession. It
Exactly.
really shows you. It really speaks volumes, I think, to her priorities and what she wanted for Biggie.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that must led to some interesting dinner conversations, when he starts getting into rapping.
I know. I mean, that's something I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for,
Yeah.
because I think, initially she wasn't really supportive. Like she really wanted him to go that traditional route, but she was smart. She could see his talent.
Right.
She could see how much he loved it and she saw how much his music resonated with people.
And what's interesting about her is even as he became this huge star,
Hmm.
um, what she was most proud of was she always said his talent was a gift, but his heart was her greatest pride.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a beautiful sentiment, right?
Yeah.
Even with all the fame and fortune, it was who he was as a person that really mattered to her.
Yeah.
And that really speaks to the kind of bond they had, the kind of mother she was.
Yeah, it's really touching. And then of course everything changed in 1997
Yeah.
when Biggie was murdered.
Yeah.
All of a sudden Voletta's whole world changes.
Totally.
She goes from this supportive mother to like this fierce protector of her son's legacy.
I mean, can you imagine going through something like that? It's just unimaginable grief. But somehow she emerged as this, like, force to be reckoned with. She didn't crumble.
Right.
She really stepped up and took charge of his legacy.
Yeah, I mean, one of the first things that she did was she was an executive producer for the biopic Notorious.
Right.
Making sure that his story was told authentically and correctly.
And it really shows. I think that movie is really powerful because you can feel Valletta's influence in it.
Yeah, you can totally feel it.
Making sure that Biggie was portrayed as a real person.
Right. And her fight went beyond the movie. She went to bat for the control of Biggie's music rights. I mean, she fought. She went up against these, industry giants who,
Yeah.
Saw an opportunity to profit from Biggie's death.
Absolutely. And she took that on. I mean, I really admire that about her. It wasn't just about the money.
Right.
It was about respect.
Right.
It was about making sure that Biggie's voice wouldn't be exploited, that his art wouldn't be exploited.
Right.
I think she really set a precedent
Yeah.
for, artists owning their own work and their estate's control over their legacy.
Exactly.
It was really, really a powerful move.
Right. And we can't forget about her decades-long fight for justice in Biggie's unsolved case.
Yeah, I mean, she never gave up on that.
Never gave up.
Yeah.
I mean, she challenged the official narrative. She called out corruption within the police department. She demanded accountability. She wanted answers.
And she wasn't afraid to speak truth to power, even when it was really dangerous or unpopular.
Right.
And she never backed down from that. She never let people forget about Biggie and what happened to him.
What I find so remarkable is she didn't stop at demanding justice for Biggie, but she also wanted to make sure that something good came out of all this.
Right.
So she started the Christopher Wallace Memorial Foundation.
Yeah, and this foundation is all about giving underserved youth opportunities that they might not otherwise have.
Right.
Education, job training, things like that.
Yeah. I mean, to take something so tragic and then turn it into something so positive, I mean, that just speaks volumes.
Yeah. And it shows the depth of her love for Biggie, right?
Right.
Turning that pain into purpose.
Mm.
And she said something really powerful. She said, "If I can help one child avoid the pain my son endured, that's my purpose."
Wow.
I mean, just think about that. That's her driving force.
That's powerful.
To try to break these cycles, address these systemic issues that lead to violence. It's a legacy of hope.
So stepping back and looking at this, you know, we can say that Voletta Wallace isn't just Biggie's mom.
Oh, absolutely not.
I mean, she's a cultural icon. She's a symbol of resilience.
Yeah.
She's a symbol of motherhood.
Absolutely.
She's a symbol of, standing up and fighting for what's right, even when it feels impossible.
And doing all that with grace and grit, she really challenges those often limiting portrayals of Black mothers that we see in the media.
Right.
She shows us the power of vulnerability and the strength that comes from channeling grief into action.
So for our listeners out there, how does Voletta's story,
Mhm.
how does it make you see Biggie's legacy differently?
Yeah.
And how does her dedication to both, preserving Biggie's memory and also fighting for social justice inspire you? We just scratched the surface here. There's so much more to explore about Voletta and also the Christopher Wallace Memorial Foundation. I think is really worth checking out.
I definitely agree.
So, yeah, this has been quite a deep dive into a really fascinating life.
Yeah, she's incredible.
Really incredible.